戦争は変わった。一つの時代が終わり、俺たちの戦争は終わった。
War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine. War has changed. Verified soldiers carry algorithmic arms, manipulate social influence, AI enhance and regulate their timelines. Memetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. War has changed. The age of deterrence has become the age of control, all in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction. And he who controls the battlefield controls history. War has changed. And when the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine.
Think outside the cage.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Crime News Talk. Today is April 22nd, 2026. We are live to tape on episode 934. And today, One World NECRO Narrative. And signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy Basil, and you are not crazy.
And my name is Gonz, at Face Like the Sun, director of the Age of Deceit films and author of Archetypalism, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ. Live to tape from the metaverse to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. It's a Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Woo, clear those sinuses. It's Earth Day. Congratulations, Earth. And according to the Canary Cry calendar, 1945, USA Air Force begins Operation Lusty to gain access to enemy weapons, tech, and info for study in the U.S.
Okay.
Very appropriate, I think, to remember Operation Lusty on this Wednesday in 2026.
It's like an espionage operation, Lusty. That's not one of the more popular ones.
Well, maybe the word meant something different in 1945.
Oh.
I don't
know.
They
were lusting over the technology of their adversaries.
Exactly. Although maybe part of the operation was to use attractive women. That's been
I was going to say lust and espionage have gone hand in hand for millennia, so it makes sense.
Well, technically, Lusty stands for Luftwaffe. I don't know how to say this. Luftwaffe Secret Technology. It's German, I think.
You know, they start with the acronym and they make it work, okay?
I think that's been a practice for a long time when it comes to the governments.
The spell doesn't work unless the acronym is good. Okay.
Yeah, the Lucifer telescope, you got all the Greek gods and stuff for all the space missions. You know, it all kind of makes sense.
Party on. Things just haven't changed much. Okay, it is Wednesday. We made it. Thanks for being here, everybody. Let's see. What do you think, Gon? Should we just jump in? We got some big news this morning. The news is breaking and taking over the world, and it has to do with race wars.
The race war. I've warned you and warned you and warned you.
It's been a while since we talked about race.
Yeah, I was saying the exact same thing. It's been a while since we've had a good race war, but here we go. I'm going to take this straight from Justice.gov. Federal grand jury charges Southern Poverty Law Center for wire fraud, false statements, and conspiracy to commit money laundering, which is a great headline because everything seems, it seems kind of like pretty straightforward, almost boring, like financial crimes in the headline.
Yeah. Now when the Southern Poverty Law Center is involved, though, if you know recent history of, I don't know, the race wars in America.
Yeah, well, of course, Southern Poverty Law Center, one of the most famous or infamous sort of progressive left-wing non-profits, I guess technically is their categorization.
Wasn't George Soros one of his favorite outposts for funding when it comes to, spreading his wealth around?
SPLC is like the George Soros of nonprofits, basically, is what it is.
I'm pretty sure George Soros directly gave to the SPLC. I don't know.
No, of course. No, of course he did. No, this is what I'm saying. They are like the most classic, most stereotypical, most powerful. And they give us a nice little summary here at the top so we don't bury the lead. Says between 2014 and 2023, the SPLC secretly funneled more than $3 million in donated funds to individuals who were associated with various violent extremist groups, including the Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nations, and National Socialist Party of America. Now, I wanted to bring this straight from Justice.gov because if you're getting this news on X or you're seeing it fly by on Facebook, people are finding all sorts of ways to describe what's happening in all sorts of creative ways, whether it's correct or not. If you're getting this from your timeline, you're probably getting something like SPLC secret masters of the KKK or something like this. But
right,
so all in the context of sort of these government money crimes. But let's hear what they have to say. A grand jury in Montgomery, Alabama today returned an indictment charging the Southern Poverty Law Center with 11 counts of wire fraud, false statements to a federally insured bank, and conspiracy to commit concealment money laundering. Which, look, I mean, it's like an ancient Democrat institution. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of money laundering. Yeah. This is also happening at the same time that, Act Blue is being investigated. Act Blue got caught sort of faking all sorts of nasty money crimes. So, it's kind of another day, another dollar for corrupt left-wing institutions. The United States Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Alabama Northern Division filed 2 forfeiture actions to recover alleged proceeds of the organization's fraud scheme. The Federal Bureau of Investigation investigated this case with assistance from the Internal Revenue Service Criminal Investigation. Here's a quote. The SPLC is manufacturing racism to justify its existence. See, you don't gotta make too far in the official government press release to like really get the juicy narrative on it. They give you that first paragraph, like, okay, attorneys, financial crimes, okay, and then they jump into it.
This is the FBI and the IRS Criminal Investigation Division saying this.
This is acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, the fellow who is the acting AG for Pam Bondi. Quote, the SPLC is manufacturing racism to justify its existence, said acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. Using donor money to allegedly profit off Klansmen cannot go unchecked. This Department of Justice will hold the SPLC and every other fraudulent organization operating with the same deceptive playbook accountable. No entity is above the law. Quote, the SPLC allegedly engaged in a massive fraud operation to deceive their donors, enrich themselves, and hide their deceptive operations from the public, said FBI Director Kash Patel. Quote, they lied to their donors, vowing to dismantle violent extremist groups, and actually turned around and paid the leaders of these very extremist groups, even utilizing the funds to have these groups facilitate the commission of state and federal crimes. That is illegal, and this is an ongoing investigation against all individuals involved. The SPLC is a nonprofit organization headquartered in Montgomery, Alabama, whose mission, according to its website, during the relevant time period, was to be a, quote, catalyst for racial justice in the South and beyond, working in partnership with communities to dismantle white supremacy, strengthen intersectional movements, and advance the rights of all people. According to the indictment, starting in the 1980s, the SPLC began operating a covert network of individuals who were either...
1980s?
Yeah, that's the... Yes.
The fraud has been going on as long as we've been alive.
Yeah, so
they're just exposing this? Huh.
The specific charges go back to 2014 and beyond, but the investigation included going all the way back to the 80s, to their inception, basically.
Right.
The SPLC began operating a covert network of individuals who were either associated with violent extremist groups, such as the Ku Klux Klan, or who had infiltrated violent extremist groups at the SPLC's direction. Unbeknownst to donors, some of their donated money was being used to fund the leaders and organizations of racist groups at the same time that the SPLC was denouncing the same groups on its website. I mean, who hasn't paid?
This is kind of why I brought up the FBI earlier. You got Kash Patel in here talking about it. Don't they do a similar type of deal? You know, where they a little espionage type, but not espionage, but
right.
What's the word I'm looking for?
FBI. It's the FBI 6-week cycle. It's why like 11 out of the 12 individuals who got in trouble for planning to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, 11 out of the 12 were FBI assets. Kind
extortion.
of like how
is extortion the word I'm looking for? I think it's...
No, what are they? Entrapment.
Entrapment. Thank you. Yes, I knew it was an E word.
Kind of like 300 FBI agents were present at
January 6th.
January 6th, all sorts. So the FBI knows this game in a way.
How come they're not getting exposed? They're the one doing the exposing in this case. Maybe which
is kind of why it's being framed around financial crimes, right? Because and this is all, I mean, this is how sort of narrative works. This is how the worldview works. Technically, we don't know. I don't know, but I imagine it's not technically illegal for an organization who claims to fight a different organization to support that organization. I mean, come on.
That is the playbook of our intelligence, our military industrial complex when it comes to
other countries as well.
Going into other countries,
flame, controlling the height of the flame. This happens all the time. Between 2014 and 2023, the SPLC secretly funneled more than $3 million in donated funds to individuals who are associated with various violent extremist groups, including, and this is fun, just to list the actual things, because you're kind of like, okay, financial crimes, okay, whatever. Then they list the groups, starting with, of course, the classic Ku Klux Klan, United Klans of America, Unite the Right, which we'll see a clip. I threw a clip in our list here, Guns, that I think will be beneficial after this. Unite the Right, of course, very famously a part of the Trump very fine people hoax, of course. National Alliance, National Socialist Movement, which I love seeing the National Socialist phrase kind of being used, because of course socialism, the sort of leftist communist kind of idea, often forgetting that the Nazis were National Socialists. So National Social Movement, sort of Nazi adjacent. Aryan Nations, affiliated with Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club. They really got creative,
They really went into the weeds. They didn't
want to leave anybody out. Of course, we have the National Socialist Party of America. That's the American Nazi Party. And American Front. According to the indictment, the objective of the scheme and artifice was to obtain money via donations through materially false representations and omissions about what the donated funds would be used for. Yeah, basically, you're not going to send out an email blast saying, hey, in order for us to stop racism, we got to send $1 million to the Ku Klux Klan, okay? Donate to the SPLC. In order to covertly pay the individuals, and this is where the details begin to matter. In order to covertly pay the individuals, the SPLC opened bank accounts connected to a series of fictitious entities.
Classic.
And now, fictitious entity just means like an LLC, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily that it doesn't exist, but that an LLC or some
Like
sort of
shell
legal
company. Yeah.
Right, shell company. The covert nature of the accounts allowed the SPLC to disguise the true nature, source, ownership, and control of the fraudulently obtained donated money to SPLC paid. Money the SPLC paid to the individuals. In order to keep the scheme going, the SPLC made a series of false statements related to the operation of the accounts. A conviction will result in the forfeiture of financial gains from the alleged illegal activities, which would basically mean the SPLC just has to give away all their money to the government because, I don't know, 10, 20 years of doing this, that's going to rack up quite the bill. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Kash Patel made the announcement in Washington. The details contained in the civil forfeiture complaint are allegations only. Now, there's a few different ways just to note how this is the narrative is making its way through the info sphere. Of course, there's those who saying, oh, Trump's getting retribution. Oh, the fascist Trump shutting down those organizations who fight racism because he's racist.
That's like the leftist view, right?
Yeah, pretty basic thing. However, this is not necessarily coming straight from the DOJ. This was done in a particular way that does at least create some separation from specifically saying Trump is doing this, because this was the result of a grand jury indictment, meaning this is not Todd Blanche filing a paper saying we're indicting you. This goes to an entire grand jury who look at the investigation, and the grand jury decides to pursue the indictment. So they're trying to connect it to Trump and the DOJ and all these things. And, in the end, of course, Trump and the DOJ are not upset that this is happening. And they probably did say, hey, take a look at this.
Go for it. Yeah.
Right. Now, this is fun. This is fun because, of course, for many years, many years, the phrase, the Democrats are the real racists, has been a pretty common refrain, right? I mean, for really anybody who's, sort of intelligent enough or independent enough to really look at kind of the objective display of the left's, what they would call intersectionality or anti-racism, turns out to be pretty racist most of the time. And now, after the destruction of USAID, the dismantling of the sort of like deep state money laundering theft ring through NGOs and controlling governments from afar, the whole thing. The SPLC is a good example of doing a very similar thing, but on a whole nother level of like purely independent NGO culture crafting sort of narrative magicians. And of course, it's all done through sending the people that they claim to be fighting against millions of dollars. Now, they will claim, or they do claim, and the language of the indictment does, go to try to not sound so explosive by using the explanatory language that the SPLC would say. It's like, yeah, well, we needed guys on the inside, right? We needed information. We needed for our whatever, we needed guys on the inside to be able to take.
We needed intel. We need somebody on the inside to give us the intel from what's happening.
Right. And so, which is okay. All right. I mean, that's not like totally crazy, I guess. I will say, if their plan was to dismantle these groups and to destroy them, and
giving them $1 million is not the way to
none
do
of them
that,
have
but-
been destroyed, right? It's
Yeah,
been
no,
decades.
they've all
of their
gotten
mission.
wealthier. They've gotten stronger.
Exactly. And by the SPLC's like own admission, or by their own narrative, the Ku Klux Klan is getting bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger. Send us more money. Well, is it because you're paying them? Is that what? Anyway.
There is a history. There's back in, I think it was 2018 or something, the SPLC had to make reparations for defamation against Muslims because they had a field guide to anti-Muslim extremists, and they got they were mischaracterizing some of the individuals or the groups, and they had to pay up $3.3 million.
Yeah, which is why the Muslims are the good guys these days. You know, that's why.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all wearing hijabs in solidarity.
Right. So there's a history of the SPLC doing this type of thing. But yeah, we got a couple clips here from.
Yeah. So
Burleson.
On one hand, there's a little bit of a dopamine hit. Okay,
sure.
Big leftist NGO going down. Look at them go. Caught in the act. Financial crimes. Take them down. Let's go. But you put a couple more seconds of thought into it, and it starts to almost overwhelm you how much of current events, cultural movements, really shining pinpoints of light of history over the past 10 years are now connected specifically to the SPLC taking donor money and paying it to the Ku Klux Klan. And in the list of those organizations was Unite the Right. And Unite the Right, of course, is an organization that was responsible for all sorts of, events and news stories. And here's Todd Blanche talking about maybe the most famous one.
What about Charlotte?
Oh, where's the sound? What's going on? No. Okay, here we go.
For a second.
Did it? Oh, you probably heard it, but I can't hear it, which is the problem.
What about Charlottesville and the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally? Were they involved in that?
Yes. So what we allege in the indictment and what the grand jury found is that one of the individuals that they paid was one of the folks who helped organize that terrible event. And so so imagine what we're talking about, Laura. We're talking about an organization that actively came out and just screamed it from the top of their lungs.
So just so people understand watching this, did these informants in some cases, given the evidence you've seen, actually initiate what would ultimately be these activities? And obviously Charlottesville ended with a tragedy.
Well, we know that they were part of those. They were part of it. Whether they were the leaders or the initiators, that'll come out, I think, eventually. But what we do know is that the very entities that this group was raising money to go against are the very entities that they were taking the money in and paying to these entities and these individuals associated with those groups.
What was the money used for?
Well, we don't know, because again, all we know is that they set up these fictitious bank accounts.
Fake names, like the Constitution Group or whatever it was called. Then they had one called Fox Photography.
Right. Completely fictitious as far as the investigation has shown. And they were using it simply to funnel money to these individuals. The indictment talks about a situation where they paid an individual to steal documents from the organization and then return the documents. And then when somebody else took the hit for it, they paid that person too. To take the hit for that. And so
gotta pay
everybody gets a little bit of something for helping out the SPLC. That is hilarious. I mean, not really, but
connecting it to Charlottesville is an especially powerful narrative. Again, like you say, like you saw, he can't quite, or he doesn't quite say Charlottesville happened because the SPLC made it happen, which, whether it's true or not, whether it would have happened or it didn't happen, whether the SPLC money helped, guide decisions, who knows? It's fun to think that is what happened. But of course, Charlottesville, which was one of these events on the left that was worse than 9/11, unfortunately ended in somebody getting run over. But more importantly, ended, or the profit, the left's profit from Charlottesville was the very fine people hoax, as it's colloquially called, when Donald Trump gets up and he says there's very fine people on both sides. You stop the tape there, you spread that around, you say, look, Trump loves Nazis, he says Nazis are fine people, and you want to make sure that you don't play the next 3 seconds where he says specifically not the Nazis, they're bad people, but there's other good people, right? So
Yeah.
a real classic, like, oh, just a real, I know everybody's we're all a little shaky on Trump right now, okay, that's admitted, but you got to admit the very fine people hoax is a real classic Trump event. But that's not all. They didn't just get the sort of social engineering from very fine people. Here's Joe Biden talking about Charlottesville.
When I spoke to the mom who lost her daughter as a consequence of those neo-Nazis and white supremacists come out of fields in America with torches, carrying Nazi banners, singing the same sick anti-Semitic bile that was sung in Germany in the 30s. And when her daughter was killed, the press went to the then President Trump and said, what do you think? He said, they're very fine people on both sides. I knew then. I knew I'd do something. And that's how I decided to run, because democracy was literally at stake. And, you know, and then he he evidenced.
What?
Sorry,
stepping on that.
I know. I thought that was the end. Sorry.
Oh, well, yeah, you're stepping the
everything that we thought. You know, January 6th, when attack on the Capitol, talked about now, because he now talks about making sure they're all let out of prison. They're going to pardon them. Think of this. Every other time the Ku Klux Klan's been involved, they wore hoods, so they're not identified. Under his presidency, they came out of those woods with no hoods, knowing they had an ally. That's how I read it. They knew they had an ally in the White House, and he stepped up for them.
I miss our ex-president Joe Biden. Good times. Those were good days.
Single minority.
Yeah.
Got hairy legs.
Like it was with USAID, there are these sort of direct connections from SPLC, maybe not, maybe I won't say lying, but maybe being leaving out key details with their donors to make a bunch of money, and then specifically using that money to at least, influence, at least benefit in one way or another, the individuals or the organizations, to perhaps I even say stage, to put on the theatrical production of things like Charlottesville, which turns into sort of sticky narrative with Trump's thing, which ultimately leads to Biden being president. So
I'm glad you brought this clip, because that was the big takeaway from Charlottesville, with particularly Joe Biden, was that this moment, the Charlottesville event, was the catalyst that got him to, I must do something. I have to do something and run for president,
Do it.
Right. So that you can say the SPLC, I keep forgetting the name of the acronym, is directly responsible for, or at least stoking, the presidency of Joe Biden.
Yeah, of course. Right. Which is kind of
and all the and they came out of the woods without the hoods because they were getting $1 million from the very people that are going to allegedly expose them.
Yeah,
so.
or whatever it is. So, there you go. Of course, we there's a little bit of dopamine hit with this. However, let's keep in mind, okay, that it's all parts of sort of the big, big narrative,
interrupting.
The big plan. The Trump administration needed a win. I am a little bit what's the word? Encouraged, maybe, if there are, let's say, Biden voters or Kamala voters or Democrats, if this can make it to their ears, which Probably won't, be featured on MSNBC or anything like that, or at least will be spun in such a way that they can find ways to justify it. You could easily see, if they were a Kamala voter, they're going to have an easy time justifying, yeah, well, who cares if the SPLC funded the Ku Klux Klan? They were doing it for good reasons, right? The sort of postmodernist, kind of anti-real justification for, it's just kind of how the left works. There's no solid foundation, moral, ethical, or otherwise foundation, which allows them to basically be able to justify anything. But, if nothing else, it made for an exciting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Anywho, there you go. I think it's interesting that this came about right after Pam Bondi left the Justice Department and Todd Blanche took over. Todd Blanche, a lot of people
he needed a splash to come in and replace.
He needed something because a lot of people don't like Todd Blanche because of his his sort of neocon establishment. It isn't necessarily what a MAGA person would think of as a MAGA person. But this now he's got a notch under his belt, and
you gotta throw a bone to all the Republicans and the conservatives.
Gives Kash Patel something to talk about that isn't him, defending chugging beers with the hockey team.
Which he sued the Atlantic for $250 million.
I hope he wins. That's a good payday.
This whole SPLC thing, $3 million, that's not much, $250 million, now we're talking actual numbers here. What are we doing? All right, so great. I miss Joe Biden.
This is the United States of America, for God's sake.
He warned us. He was right.
Armageddon's on the way.
I just like playing the ISOs. But we're in a new time. We're in a new era. Some might argue we are in a new age.
We will launch a new age.
And before we thank some producers, Basil, executive producers, we covered the story of America Reads the Bible, the program that some people put together to read through the entire Bible in 1 week, as the government, many government personnel,
they say 20 hours of Bible reading for politicians and celebrities. Famously, Donald Trump was given 2 Chronicles, what was it, chapter 7?
Chapter 7, verses 11 through 22.
Yeah, talks about the blessing and the establishment of the first temple.
Yeah.
People don't even read their Bible, for heaven's sake.
So we got the clip of the president reading it, and there's some.
Go ahead, make. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was just gonna say there are some interesting visual cues about this clip. Now, I don't know if we need to play the whole thing. It's about 2.5 minutes long. It's just him reading, but just for the people listening at home, this is in some kind of theater. There's a couple podiums on stage, which suggests that there were live people, reading their part of the reading at some point. But for President Trump, it was a recorded, portion. And the thing that I noticed immediately was that he does have what looks to be a Bible open on his desk. His hands are folded over the Bible. So he's not reading from the pages of the Bible that's sitting in front of him. It looks like he's reading off a teleprompter, but there's something about him staring right at you in the camera and reading scripture. There's an interesting effect. I don't know. Here's a few seconds of it.
Two Christians, right? Maybe this doesn't apply to everybody, but to me, and I think a lot of Christians that I know, when it comes to reading the Bible, there is some importance to actually holding the Bible in your hand, reading it, even if you're listening to somebody else read the Bible, right? Like seeing them look and read the words off the page. I don't exactly have the words to describe it, but it's kind
of a reverence. It's a gesture of reverence to actually, hold the sacred text and read from it, not look at you, look into your soul.
Or, there's there's kind of a confirmation of like, okay, they're actually reading the words off the page or something, you know. That I'm not saying it's a salvation issue, but for anybody who's been a Christian for any period of time, when there's a Bible reading, you know, like you go to a wedding or something and somebody is going to read you know, love is this, love is that or something, and they come up with like a sheet of printer paper. You're like, okay, read it out of the Bible. Come on, we're doing something here. Anywho, and so yes, and I will say, the idea of Trump reading a not insignificant chunk of scripture was funny to think about when we first reported it, but then to actually watch it happen. And part of me, you know, of course, we can pause it if we. I almost want to.
I don't know. I don't want to pause it. I want everyone to feel the effect of the entire thing.
That's how I feel too. Okay. Here's the thing. He is still Donald Trump when he's reading it. And there's something about his Donald Trump voice that is more Donald Trumpy than you could imagine. Like something about when he's reading scripture in Donald Trump voice, you're like, is he faking his own voice? Like, is he doing an impression of himself? And to hear scripture read, not even just like quoted or, you know, referenced, but like a nice chunk read in Donald Trump voice, it's almost like listening to his magic marker sign his name on a bill.
Yes.
It's got a little bit of a hypnotic quality to it. And you'll see what I'm casting when we get going here.
Protect your minds and your hearts, folks. Here we go.
Thus Solomon finished the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's heart to make in the house of the Lord, and in his own house he prosperously effected. And the Lord appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up heaven, that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open and my ears attent to the prayer that is made in this place. For now I have chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. And as for you, if you will walk before me, as David your father walked, and do according to all that I have commanded you, and shall observe my statutes and my judgments, then will I establish the throne of my kingdom according to as I have covenanted with David your father, saying, there shall not fail you as a man to be ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I pluck them up from the roots out of my land which I have given them, and this house which I have sanctified for my name will I cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword among nations. And this house which is high shall be an astonishment to every one that passes by it, so that he shall say, why has the Lord done thus to this land and to this house? And it shall be answered, because they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshiped them and served them. Therefore has he brought all this evil upon them.
Whew, all right, we made it.
You know, it's interesting. We kind of maybe felt it, maybe commented a little bit, part of the sort of maybe irony, maybe not irony, maybe relevance of Trump kind of I don't know if he picked it. Somebody picked him to read this scripture, but of course it's relevant because it's about consecrating the first Temple of Solomon, which, of course, if you're on the Christ is the anti-Trump train, it means he will be
And Trump is the Antichrist, right?
rebuilding the third temple. So that's particularly
You
relevant.
said Christ is the anti-Trump.
But
I
then
think you had a moment. Go ahead.
no, I said Trump is the Antichrist. Anyway,
Of course you did.
a major part of this particular scripture is speaking directly to the leader of the
Right.
nation.
Yeah.
And calling for humility, calling for righteousness, to keep God's commandments, to follow the rules.
Mhm.
And of course, ironically or relevantly, that is a lot of criticism that Trump's getting now. Of course, not known for being humble, not known for being a pious man. So he's kind of, there is something to it. Whoever got this particular set of scripture for Trump to read, it wasn't random. Let's just say that. It certainly
Well,
wasn't.
we played the clip from Bunny, what's her name, that organized this whole thing, and she said, last episode we clipped it. She said that she saved this passage specifically for President Trump because it was
Right.
such an important part of the last 50 years of America, with prayer. And I broke down a little bit about how there's a difference between using scriptures like this as an analogy. Of course, we want to turn to the Lord and repent and follow His commandments and do all these things. That's not really the issue, but the issue does arise a little bit, and some people might be critical of applying this passage to suggest that if people turn from sin, that therefore God must heal the land of America because we're Americans and America is in a covenant with God, and therefore, if we
Right.
follow the commandments, then He shall heal the land. Like He's some kind of wizard.
America being the new Israel, or simply, yes, the promises. The promises to Israel are promises to America. It gets a little. Let's say there's some theological debate about these particular things.
Right. In application when it comes to that. Yeah, but so it is strange. And I think, I was mentioning beforehand, Basil, that every time they cut to there's two camera angles. There's the direct, he's staring into your soul, like straightforward look. And then there's like a 45-degree camera angle that kind of shows him from the side. And I think the cuts were so weird because it would cut to the side camera view for like 2 seconds, not even that, maybe 1 second, and then it goes back to the front view. I'm assuming he messed up and they just edited him, and to do the edits.
Do the
edits.
He's not used to reading teleprompters for so long. So
right.
I mean, that is kind of part of why he is who he is and why he goes extemporaneously so often. Is it's like you can almost be hypnotized by the teleprompter. I tried my hand at teleprompter reading back when I was a young whippersnapper, and it can get so frustrating that anybody else in the room with you, starts feeling a little edgy.
Yeah, I mentioned it last episode, but I had to read an entire psalm as part of the church reading, Psalm 31, I believe, which was like 24 verses or something, maybe longer. And I was doing so well reading it. And then I realized my cadence, I messed up on the cadence. I read, how a lot of psalms.
Yeah, and you don't know it until it's too late.
Yeah. It's a full sentence, but it's divided into 2 lines. I read the first half like it was the end of the sentence, and then there was more, and I'm like, oh, rats, But I guess when it comes to Trump, he can just keep going, and
when you're editing,
somebody should produce.
When you got a multicam shoot, gives you some.
It's an opportunity to edit. Someone should publish the Trump reads the entire Bible, like AI Trump's voice, and just do the whole Bible. And I'm sure he'll sue you afterwards. But it's a good idea. I think it's a good product.
Be his product. I'm sure it's already available.
That's true.
Okay. Well, we got a lot more to get to this show, Gun. So I want to take
Yes,
a
we
second
do.
and thank some of our producers because we are on the value for value model. You'll notice no advertisements, no corporate money, no sponsorships, nothing like that. There's a lot of good reasons for that. And if you don't know them, you're going to know them. But I'll try to keep it short, of course. But out of revolution, out of rebellion against the worship of mammon and the respect for the time, attention, and consciousness of our viewers, we don't feel like selling your attention for our own personal gain is really what we're called to do here. So we are on the value for value model. It's very simple that everybody understands now that if you get value and you want the show to continue and it brings any value to your life in whatever form that it does, we gotta consider once in a while putting some value back into the show. And you can put value back into the show with your time, your talent, your treasure, whatever it is that you have to give. We will take it. And that's how we've lasted this long against all odds. And you can go to canarycrysupplydrop to learn more about it. And the again, is when putting some value into the show, if you're coming in with your treasure, of course, unfortunately in this world, the finances are an integral thing to keep pieces of media alive. And if you feel called to that, if the Lord touches your heart and says, let's do it, buddy, and you go over to canarycry.support, you say, well, what do I do? How much do I do? Well, it's up to you. The Lord will tell you whatever number makes sense to you, whatever number accurately represents the value that you're getting. You can come in and support the show. If you come in over $7.77, you're entitled to have a note read on the show. A big old thank you to our monthly producers who come in, support us monthly. It's a really big deal. We would not exist without you. But if you support the show for $100 or more, that makes you an executive producer of any individual episode like this. So we got a couple executive producers we want to thank. I'm going to start with executive producer Jinja.
Jinja, thank you very much.
Very much, Jinja. And executive producer Jinja comes in with a nice round number, which means that we will not disclose it on the show. If you're producing the show and you come in with a nice round number on the 10 or the 5, that's you telling us you'd prefer we do not disclose it on the show. If you don't mind us disclosing it, put some funky numbers on there. Put 33 cents or 77 cents or 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. That's just you telling us you don't mind us thanking you for it on the show. Like executive producer Sir LX Protocol V2, Baron of the Breen Protocol.
There he goes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, coming in for $100 and 33 cents.
Illuminatus!
And has been supporting the show for 481 episodes in a row and has been executive producing for 135 episodes in a row. God bless you, Sir Alex.
Quite the executive streak.
Yes, incredible. Thank you to both of our executive producers. That's the list for today. And, producership has not bounced back this month. Tax month. I get it. People aren't feeling very flush. So I do want to thank our one single other producer, not executive producer, but producer, who came in, and that is producer Rebecca T.
Rebecca T, thank you so much.
And Rebecca T came in for 2345, 2345.
2345.
And she's on a 17 episode streak.
Yeah, she's on a streak.
Yeah, she is.
Yes, she is. And of course, so that's that. I'm going to thank our streakers later on in the show here because they've been streaking and I've been paying attention to their mega streaks. They usually are coming in under $7.77 to keep those long streaks going. But of course, we could not continue the show without thanking our one and only CageRattlerCoffee.com.
Oh, yes, of course. Here we go. Gotta drink the coffee.
Cage Rattler Coffee. For value never tasted so good.
A little cold.
That's
a little
right.
cold, but it's okay.
What yours? You have cold
Yeah,
coffee?
no, it's been sitting here since the show started, so yeah, it's lost
Okay, that's
its
cool.
warmth, but
That's
you know,
cool.
it's
Yeah, this has been
still
Coffee
delicious.
Update with Gans Shimura, making sure you know the temperature of the coffee. Go to CageRattlerCoffee.com. I will say this. I said there's a lot to say about Cage Rattler Coffee, but one thing that I love is we should be thinking about Cage Rattler Coffee almost as a public utility for the Canarium. Because, of course, we're all spending money on coffee all the time. Hopefully, you have graduated from going to places like Starbucks or buying expensive individual coffees, and you've now gained the skills and the celebration of making coffee at home. That's a especially in financial times like this, making coffee at home, very important. But in that case, being very aware and choosy of where our money is going is a privilege, because of course this is America. We send our money all over the place without even thinking where it goes. We reluctantly send our money to corporations who hate everything that we believe in, and they use that money to fund, racist Ku Klux Klan groups, behind our backs, or they support different movements or cultural shifts that go against everything that we believe in. Very few times in life do we have an opportunity to truly direct the monetary energy, the gift that God gives us, in whatever amount that comes to us and whatever amount we are able to spend, to send that to a place that is aligned with our faith, aligned with our values, and so we can actually feel good about where our purchasing power is going, is pretty rare these days. Now, of course, we can look for Christian companies, or we can look for just not evil companies, and, it's a matter of degrees. But to be able to get our coffee from a Canarian just like us, who is aware and values things like the understanding of Genesis 6 in our cosmology, who is aware of the evil dark forces that control, our institutions and our global economy, to support a small company that is led by a Canarian who understands that CBDCs and bio ID is coming for us, and we, through the understanding that Christ gives us, can do everything we can to avoid being sucked into the beast system. That is a very rare opportunity. But then, to have that coffee that we purchase for our God-given money, to also be the best coffee that you could possibly purchase, that is truly a miracle. And we hear it all the time. We get messages all the time, people talking about how, I just wanted to support the show. I just wanted to support Cage Rattler. And then I started drinking the coffee, and now I can't drink any other coffee. It's truly the best. Hans and I drink it every day. It is wonderful. Everything is GMO free, organic, single origin coffee beans. And of course, you can get your Nephilim Hunter dark roast, your Emu Wrangler medium roast, whatever you want. Jump on, get the variety pack. And until the end of the month here, to celebrate my new emu hatchlings, my firstborn sons and daughters, you can use the discount code BABYEMU to get an extra 5% off. So go check it out. And of course, a portion of every sale comes to support the show. Value for value. We're very grateful for that. Cage Rattler Cup. Go get it.
We have an update real quick from Sir Ike regarding the Giga giveaway or Mega Box giveaway here.
Okay.
Canary family, this is Sir Ike here. I am getting ready to do the final drawing for the Mega Box giveaway for the rating and reviews, and I have my random number generator pulled up here. And the winner is going to be Shalange 1. Shalange 1, you have won this Mega Box here. I am getting ready to send you an email, and I will get this out in the mail to you as soon as I can. If I'm not going to be doing any more ratings review giveaways in the near future, but if you still want to leave one and get on the list for next time I run one, just leave a rating review, screenshot that, and email it to canarycrysupplydrop@gmail.com. Thanks.
There you go. Go do it. Congratulations, Shalange 1. Make sure to keep an eye on your email box to get your supply drop mega giveaway. Thank you, Sir Ike, for staying on that and for celebrating all the producers out there who leave us ratings and reviews. We should really be asking for that more often. But
We should.
there you go. Go leave a rating and a review wherever you can.
Yep. Very good.
One last mention. Because the meetup is on the 25th, which is Saturday. This Saturday, this is the last time you will be told. This Saturday, Kansas City, there is a meetup, and I'm pulling it up now so I can see exactly where it goes. But if you're in the Kansas City area, all you got to do is show up at Kelly's Westport Inn at 12:45 p.m. Look for a couple of guys in Canary Crime News Talk t-shirts and have a nice little meetup there. And if you want, you can go to the Demon Hunter concert that evening if you are a Christian heavy metal music appreciator. So there you go. It's
double bass.
There will be no more reminders. Kansas City meetup, April 25th, Kelly's Westport Inn, 12:45. Look for the guys in the t-shirts. And if you can't remember those details, just go to canarycrysupplydrop.com. You'll see them there.
Boom, boom. Yeah. And we encourage people to put together their own meetups in your local neighborhood, just because that is the way, folks.
That's the way to do it. Pick a time, pick a place, email us at canarycryradio@gmail.com. Tell us that time and place, and we will tell the world, and you will meet other Canarians.
We promise that it will not kill.
It will kill.
Something else will kill, though. I don't know. There's lots of things that will kill, apparently.
It's got to be biblical.
Incredible segue.
Yeah, thank you. Our new favorite representative, Paulina Luna, did post this meme, Basil.
No sarcasm allowed, Gons. We're not allowed to have sarcasm. Remember that.
Well, all right.
I can't believe we went through the SPLC story and the Trump reading the Bible story. I mean, I can't even imagine the amount of sarcasm that we didn't even realize we put in those stories.
We probably put, I think a lot of we miss Biden. I'm a little sincere about the I miss Biden part, though. I mean, it seems so innocent, now.
It was a simpler time.
It was a simpler time. Paulina Luna did post this meme this morning, Basil, just for to kind of wrap up the SPLC story. It's the meme with Scooby-Doo. You got the whole crew there, and you got someone dressed in a ghost outfit, and they're tied up, so they're caught, and it says actual racist on the ghost figure there. And of course, the mask gets pulled off, and it's the SPLC Southern Poverty Law Center logo.
Yeah. And the impact, I think this is good. I think this is even a deeper meme than maybe a lot of people realize, because what you got to remember is not that the SPLC was faking racists, that they were pretending, that, because of course, for the SPLC to continue to exist, their whole point is to fight racism. So if there's no racism, then they can't fight any. And the point wasn't that they were paying people to pretend to be racist. It's that they were literally funding the actual real racists in the Ku Klux Klan. Like the real racists wouldn't have what they have if it weren't for the SPLC.
Yeah. Oh boy. You can picture the meeting in the back room there, and they're like, all right, we need to stoke a race war, and they'll think, oh, okay, well, what who do we target? We'll target the racists, the racists that really need to be torn down. And then some kid in the back would be like, sir, there's not many racists in the country anymore. Like, we'll fund them. So that's kind of, I think, how it went down. But anyway, Representative
control the height of the flame.
Yes. Paulina Luna also posted, we just learned of the tragic passing of David Wilcock. We are praying for his family and loved ones and the millions of lives he impacted. Then she put the dove emoji with John 8:32. Of course, John 8:32 is the well-known passage, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Now, in the context of this passage, Basil, what or who is the truth?
Well, of course, it's David Wilcock talking about aliens and
No sarcasm, sir.
no,
Come on.
that not it? Okay. Is it Jesus Christ? The
I believe
Logos
it is
of the universe?
Jesus Christ. Yes, the Logos, the Alpha, the Omega. Jesus is the truth that sets you free. Okay, not David Wilcock, but that's in the context because of this story that I guess it was a couple days ago, but yesterday it hit the timeline. I'm taking this from Hindustan Times. Did David Wilcock's biographer die 2 days before UFO experts' alleged suicide? Weird twist emerges among rumors. So David Wilcock allegedly passed away a couple days ago. Now, if you don't know who David Wilcock is, he is a content creator. He, particularly for me, this is very interesting because I do quote David Wilcock in the 2011 documentary I made, Age of Deceit, Fallen Angels, and the New World Order. In the opening music scene where I clipped together all kinds of stuff, David Wilcock is one of them because he talked about in 2012, we're going to have this energetic shift. I forget the exact thing he said in the clip, but he's one of these guys who was talking about the truth about UFOs and aliens and higher consciousness, and he's very new age. Now, he changed his message to quote unquote accommodate a Christian worldview in a sense, further down his sort of his career. And by then, I wasn't really paying attention too much to him. He's also well known for, I think it was like 2014, 2013, maybe. He came out and he said, they're going to start arresting the bankers. The central bank is going to be taken down. It was almost like a pre-QAnon claim about the bankers going down, or the deep state being taken down, and all that whole narrative prior to Trump. So he's one of these guys that came out and said all that stuff too. So for anyone who was wondering, we'll play some clips from him. But in terms of the narrative craft, everybody's paying attention to the missing or dead scientists associated with nuclear research or UFOs or janitoring for one of them, and of course pharmakia for one of them. So everyone's kind of paying attention to that, and I think there's
the Daily Mail ongoing list and narrative that there's something funny happening to all of our UFO and nuclear researchers.
Yes. Parallel to that is a sub narrative that's forming, and that is that a lot of the ancient alien guys, the people that were interviewed on Ancient Aliens, are also dying. And just to kind of tug on that thread for a moment, Erich von Däniken, who claimed aliens visited Earth, dies at 90. Okay, so this is New York Times back in January of this year. And the subheadline here, his 1968 book, Chariots of the Gods, sold hundreds of thousands of copies, but one critic called it warped parody of reasoning. So, okay, this is the New York Times doing their thing. But Erich von Däniken, the reason why Ancient Aliens was even a show was partly due to the work of Chariots of the Gods and the influence that had for UFO research. And Erich von Däniken was interviewed quite a bit. If you saw a picture of him, you might recognize him as one of these guys that was did a lot of commentary on Ancient Aliens. Interestingly enough, Tsoukalos, the meme guy, the guy that always everything is aliens with the hair, he's very quiet. He hasn't been. He's kind of, I don't know. Once he was immortalized as a meme, I think he kind of went into hiding or something. I haven't heard much from Tsoukalos. But Erich von Däniken passed away at 90. He's an old guy. He's 90, so it's not like it wasn't anything crazy. But earlier this month, in the month of April, Nick Pope also passed away. Nick Pope investigated UFOs for the Ministry of Defense. This is for the United Kingdom. This was the Economist carrying this story. And this did shock some people in the UFO community earlier this month because, he's 60 years old. He's one of these guys well known to be doing serious research about the UFO topic for the United Kingdom. I'll just read the first sentence of the article here. It was neither a project nor a program, though sometimes in his enthusiasm, Nick Pope said it was. Under Winston Churchill, it was known as the Flying Saucer Working Party. When he arrived there in 1991, it was fundamentally a one-man band, himself sitting at the desk of the Secretariat Air Staff Department 2A in the bowels of Britain's Ministry of Defense. And so again, he did a lot of research, and it was sort of the point man when it came to talking about this topic of UFOs and close encounters and that sort of thing, as some kind of official government research program, at least in the UK. So that was another individual who passed away recently. And then of course we get to David Wilcock, he's not a scientist. He's not wasn't a physicist or working at NASA. So he doesn't fit that list, if you will. But he was a prominent content creator in the New Age field when and touching on those topics.
Author, podcaster, kind of guy.
And particularly for me, when I first started asking questions about what about UFOs, what about aliens, how does this fit into the Bible and the worldview of the Bible, he was one of these guys I ran into early on because he was making content. He was his MP3s and stuff were being pushed. MP3s, Basil, do you remember MP3s?
Yeah, he was like back in like Alex Jones era, like long time ago. He's been doing it for an incredibly long period.
Yes. Now he's made some interesting claims over the years. He said he was the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce, the famous psychic in America here. But there's some other things that people are noticing, and I find it, of course, interesting and ironic that it's the Hindustan Times carrying the story, which suggests, if you are new to the show, that this is some sort of operative to create narratives. The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act allows for the United States citizens to be subject of propaganda, and it's usually done through quoting foreign outlets. And so they will plant some of these stories and narratives on foreign outlets. And Hindustan Times just famously, much like Daily Mail.co.uk, responsible for carrying some of these narratives before they come to the United States officially under, the New York Post or the New York Times or CBS or something like that.
So that the story can be reported in the United States. So if there's some sort of intelligence operation to put out a narrative, they have to put it out internationally, which is legal, and then American outlets can grab it and say, hey, this is what's being reported, which is why, again, we'll get back to the Daily Mail list of 11 scientists. That's probably, we suspect, just sort of directly a narrative being injected into the info space. And Hindustan Times, yes, is like, it's like the equivalent of Daily Mail, basically, sort of a delivery mechanism.
And just to clarify too, for David Wilcock particularly, I'll go to this other Hindustan Times article that covered the precise death of David Wilcock more specifically, and then we'll go back to the one I was just on here. TMZ has confirmed that David Wilcock, UFO specialist and writer, has passed away at the age of 53. The TMZ report cited unspecified sources to report that the paranormal writer has passed away. They need to come on, Hindustan Times. You need to run it through a camera check or something. But the story goes, and allegedly from the Boulder County, Colorado website that, they report certain deaths and, obituaries and stuff like that. It was a very interesting or weird situation where he allegedly called the police, and he was having either a moment or some kind of mental breakdown. And he called
the dispatcher says when she was dispatching the officers, called it in as a mental health incident, that he was having a mental health episode.
Right. Yeah. According to the Boulder County, Colorado obituary here, David Wilcock death. Authorities in Boulder County are investigating the death of a man following a tragic incident Monday morning near the 1400 block of Ridge Road. According to officials, Boulder County Communications received a 911 call at approximately 10:44 a.m. reporting an unknown problem. That turned out to be the mental breakdown, I suppose. The emergency communications specialist who handled the call believed the caller may have been experiencing a mental health crisis, prompting a swift response from law enforcement.
So
deputies arrived.
There's some important details there, because of course the skeptical are saying, okay, this is okay, do we believe the story, right? And we'll get into some of the reasons people are questioning the story in a moment. But the story from the institutions are he was having a mental health breakdown. And the reporting says here that the emergency communication specialist, the dispatcher who handled the call, believed the caller may have been experiencing a mental health crisis. So, you wonder what, the implication that they're trying to make is like he was having a mental health crisis and called in and said like, hey, I'm having a mental health crisis, send the cops. But whether, who knows, we'll see if the dispatch call ever comes out. Sometimes people will either leak or they'll release the actual 911 call. So it'd be very interesting to hear what the 911 call is there. But at least for official narrative purposes, they're having to say that the dispatcher claims that there was a mental health crisis going on.
Yeah, it says here, deputies arrived at the scene around 11:02 a.m. and made contact with a man outside a residence. Within minutes of the arrival, the situation escalated and the individual died at the scene. Authorities have not released further identifying details pending formal confirmation and notification of next of kin by the Boulder County Coroner's Office. So
the updated story, since this is released, the updated story is that it's being reported that he ended up shooting himself.
Right. He turned a weapon against himself and took his own life. That's the story being told. So apart from that, so that of course is tragic, and of course it's going to spark a lot of controversy and conversation about what actually might have happened, especially with someone like him who streamed a couple days ago, and we'll play some clips from that. And is well known to be a guy that's exposing the deep state and things of that nature. And one strange detail people are pointing out, and this is actually pointed out by Jay Widener, who I believe I know he worked with Wilcock on some videos or some projects at Gaia. I think it's like Gaia TV or something. It's one of these more new agey platforms. But I also believe he was somewhat critical of David Wilcock at some point. So it's interesting that Jay Widener is the one that's talking about this, because allegedly, David Wilcock was experiencing a lot of death threats in recent years and stuff, and that's part of his struggle and sort of public, on and off. Am I going to stream? Am I going to not? Type of deal was, he's being tormented by these bullies, threatening to kill him all the time. And he wrote a book called The Reincarnation of Edgar Cayce, and the biographer of that book, Winfrey, who goes by Winfrey, I don't know if that's really their name, but Winfrey passed away, according to Jay Widener, on April 18th, just 2 days before Wilcock allegedly died by suicide. So, people are starting to wonder, like, well, okay, is this really what's going on? Why is the biographer and the guy that this person wrote the book with both dying 2 days apart, right? That raises suspicions just in general. So, and rightfully so. I think that's your more natural reaction to something like this, especially as the public is highly sensitive to scientists and, UFO topic being put out there, alleged whistleblowers getting killed before they testify, alleged scientists going missing or dying, before they make things public. So this falls in line with that narrative that's being crafted, which I find very interesting. So let me play a couple clips from David Wilcock. People are sharing some snippets from his last live stream, which I believe was a couple days ago. And here's one of them that's being shared a lot.
I'm excited to be here. Every day that I have on earth is a gift and a blessing, and I'm very grateful for that, because frankly, people are disappearing. Scientists are going missing. Now they're saying they're going to investigate this. The president himself is saying they're going to look into this and see if anything's going on. It's a little bit scary. I got to say, it's a little bit scary, but you guys knew that I might still show up, even though it was last minute and I've had a really rough week. That's kind of like every week, but somehow we keep on making it through all of this.
So there you go. That's a clip that's being shared quite a bit of him saying, he's referencing the scientists missing and how he says how scary it is.
Right.
But somehow he keeps going. Also, just as a point of reference, David Wilcock's big thing was a 2012 shift. That during 2012, December 21st, 2012, there's going to be a galactic wave that's going to hit the Earth, and we are all going to instantly evolve. And that this evolution will take place in an instant, with the twinkling of an eye, he used to say. And he suggested that all we need to do was be 51% as like a human species, 51% good. We just have to be more than half good. And that'll be enough for the ascended masters to grant us the next step of human evolution. That was his message.
Yeah.
And
so it's so funny because, of course, one of the things with David Wilcock is that he was not just like he was a new agey guy, but he was sort of like the source of a lot of new agey theology for a lot of people. And, it's a complicated thing for, say, believers who are UFO, enthusiasts or interested, because
truly
a lot of things David Wilcock talks about, you're like, okay, could there be something here? But then there's, for him, it was all part of this sort of new age theology. And, I don't know. I don't want to talk too out of turn, or maybe it's too soon or something. But if it is indeed the fact that he had an episode and who knows, he thought somebody was coming for him or whatever. He was out on his lawn at 10:44 in the morning, calls the cops on himself, and then takes his own life. It's just, it's very sad, but also kind of like, he's quite possibly opening himself up to a lot of, demonic activity, or just
that's the thing,
dark spiritual forces in this sort of misguided enthusiasm about sort of new agey stuff. Him thinking that he was the reincarnation of a psychic, stuff like this. That's on one hand. On the other hand, you're like, well, I don't know if the story's pretty weird. But if you include, the fact that quite possibly could have been opening himself up to some, pretty dark influences, then, almost any story is possible.
Yeah. And I'll just mention this here now. I'll give you some more examples of some of this, but truly, in 2009, 2010, if I didn't discover the Chris Whites and the L.A. Marzulis, the Derek Gilberts, the Chuck Misslers, Russ Dizdar, there's a handful of people that really were speaking about the topic, UFO, Mike Heiser, UFOs, aliens, that topic, but grounding it in scripture. And, Dr. Michael Heiser probably remembered as one of the most important because he made it a scholarly discussion, tied it to the Dead Sea Scrolls, tied it to the Book of Enoch, interestingly enough, as we've been discussing the last few episodes, becoming a cultural touching point with a lot of the topics of UFOs and aliens. If it wasn't for discovering that community of people, I would have continued to follow guys like David Wilcock down that road of new agey stuff, because it was very enticing at the time to try to understand what was going on. And I'll play a clip in a moment here that will show you or exemplify why part of his message was so intoxicating, if you will, for many people that are seeking truth. But I did say this in a post this morning, and it's maybe an unpopular take. I did not mention any names in this, but I think you can infer what I'm talking about here. I said, how do you get everyone to start considering a one world religion? Well, you stoke a Streisand effect by starting to disappear all the people who carry a narrative that assists in its development. As an example, the ancient aliens worldview doesn't have one single cohesive perspective, but it does collapse all religions, modern science, spiritual psychology, and more into a single narrative. And I give some examples here. It reframes most religions as interacting with advanced extraterrestrial civilizations. It explains entities that they encounter as ascended beings here to teach and guide humanity. It explains the goal for all religions and spiritual pursuits as the advancement of consciousness or Christ consciousness. Explains the supernatural as advanced technology adjacent to the topic of modern UFOs. And we've been in the era of quiet suppression for decades. You know, a lot of people that came out and spoke about some of these things, or the technology, or the, you know, the more the mystical type things, they were either dismissed, or if they were silenced, they were silenced quietly. There was not a lot of, you know, fervor, fanfare about it. But we've entered a time of loud suppression, which suggests whoever is behind the narrative craft wants everyone to start looking at the content some of these individuals dying or gone missing or even allegedly committing suicide have been saying. At the very least, it stokes an epistemological crisis, one that everyone will be using AI to find answers to. So it's a very opportune time right now to stoke this type of curiosity amongst the masses. And that's why, you know, it doesn't help when Representative Anna Paulina Luna says, read the Book of Enoch, and then, you know, the tragic passing of David Wilcock, but then, you know, quotes John 8:32, the truth will set you free. So as an example of what I'm talking about here, here's David Wilcock from that same stream, the last stream he made, discussing John chapter 10.
I love this. 10:16. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life only to take it up again. That's the ascension. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own accord. I have the authority to lay it down and the authority to take it up again. This commandment I received from my Father because he's an ascended being. Again, most of us can't do this. You don't get to resurrect. If you lay down your life, you're done. So please don't do that. Please don't be stupid. Okay? It's something you never want to have to go through. And again, you know, natural is the only way to go. But anyway.
Interesting, isn't it? That he talks about death and resurrection.
He's basically saying, don't commit suicide. Don't be silly. Don't take your own life. It's not for you to do.
Right. And he's getting in this weird context of reading John 10, verses 17 through 18 and 19 here, and calling the Father an ascended master, first of all. Okay, so there's that. See, notice, I mean, for me, it's like mixed emotions, you know? It's kind of like he's clearly saying, and clearly the whole suicide narrative and everything is very strange, and it's very sad and tragic that he would pass away at age 53. It's way too young. But also this is what he was promoting. This is what he was talking about a lot. You know, like he was taking scripture and kind of molding it into this new agey language, you know, kind of fusing the ideas into the same sort of thing. So it's a very, I don't know, it's
well, and like you said, in your experience, you know, without God's intervention in your process there, you very easily could have gone down the new agey route. You know, the Illuminati, the aliens, the this, the that. Of course it's ascended masters. Of course there's a cosmic wave coming to take us into the golden age or whatever, you know, like that's, and what we've seen, because you and I have been doing this for so long, is that there's basically two options. Like you start waking up and there comes a point in your waking up process that you either turn to Jesus or you become super new age. Those are like,
right. It's true. Yeah.
Things. And that's why, I mean, again, in hindsight, you know, your Age of Deceit series, which you can say, you know, it's about a lot of things, you know, it's about a lot of stuff, but at its core, what I would say, if you're looking for one unifying theme, is specifically like, hey, yes, all of this is happening. You can see it, you can hear it, you can learn about it. However, one side wants you to put it in the perspective of New Age, and there's a whole global, spiritual, you know, adversarial, basically propaganda campaign to have you wake up to like the Illuminati, but put it in a New Age context. And what the answer really is to put it in the context of the Bible and being a believer in Christ. And I mean, goodness gracious, we've had hundreds and hundreds of people over the years message us and say, you know, if it wasn't for Age of Deceit, I would have easily gone down the New Age, or maybe I did go down the New Age, and then I saw A to Deceit, and it provided an explanation and a context that was different from everything that I had had before, because all I had ever heard it was in the context of New Age. So I thought I was a psychic, I thought I was a this, and was going to save the world. And it just happens to be where we are now, which you could say, we are in the age of deceit, and we see the same binary presenting itself. People waking up, whether it's COVID, whether it's government, whether it's Trump, whatever, and you pretty much have two options. You can become a New Ager, or you can start following Christ. And it's still a binary that people are being presented with now. And the fact that you pretty much, laid it out, whether you were meaning to or not, over, at least 15 years ago. And then, of course, several times in the series there. There's just nothing more relevant. And when it comes to this conversation about Wilcock, I think that that's maybe the most important conversation to be having about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it hits close to home for me, for sure, and I know a lot of people out there. And part of the reason why I even made the film was because, and I think the reason why it went semi-viral in the first place was because it was tapping into what a lot of people were feeling, that they were like, hey, I don't know, I'm not sure. But once you kind of put it together, the choice does become fairly binary.
Yeah, that's the threshold. People found themselves coming to that same threshold that you're
right. And I'll play this last clip of Wilcock that I have here, and this was not from the final stream there, but I believe it was more recent. And he's discussing this shift happening, and he's discussing the deep state. He calls it DS. So when he says DS, he's talking about the deep state, and this is why there's confusion. There can be confusion between people like us, like you and I, Basil, talking about the corruption and the hidden technologies and the all of the topics we love to discuss just because they're fun. And back in the day when conspiracy was more of like a fun topic, but still a serious tone to it, because there's an obvious cover up going on by somebody to not release this technology or not allow it to become prominent, because it would free us in a sense, or free us in a more of a carnal sense, a more fair society, or a more just more abundant type of society. And so that part of the conversation when it comes to conspiracies and stuff, there's a little bit of overlap as to like, yes, there is an agenda, yes, there's a conspiracy, yes, there is a cover up, and all these types of things. So listen though how David Wilcock used to, at least in this clip, formulate this into what would be perceived as a one world religion.
Very, very adamantly fighting to prevent you from learning about extraterrestrials. That's the last thing they want you to know.
The DS.
The DS is very, very adamantly fighting to prevent you from learning about extraterrestrials. That's the last thing they want you to know about. They want you to be afraid. They want you to see them as gods, to see them as authority figures. The last thing they want is for you to understand there's a higher power that answers Christianity, answers Islam, answers Buddhism, answers Hinduism. It pays off all of these ancient teachings that we've inherited that often become religions. And we find out that these are not mythological texts. These are actual documented, factual, historical accounts. The Bible has ET contact. The Quran has ET contact. Buddhist scriptures have multiple examples of ET contact. So does the Hebrew scriptures. It's everywhere. So we're going to have a big awakening. And as I've said before, I have been used by these higher beings telepathically to convey a message, which is the earth changes that we were afraid were going to happen, pole shift, solar flash, tsunami, all that stuff. That's not going to be happening. We're actually going to be spared these disasters because we've learned the lessons that Jesus meant to teach us, to be loving towards other people. Enough of us have learned these lessons of love. Joy Berman just donated. Thank you very much. We've learned these lessons of love so that we don't have to go through this catastrophe. We've authorized a positive timeline. And so it's very important to understand that the most jealously guarded secrets by the DS are the forbidden technologies. This is the most dangerous thing to talk about. They will threaten you the most. They will attack you the most. They will take intelligence assets and put them on you. Those intelligence assets are told that you're full of crap, told that you're a con artist, told that you're lying. The assets don't even know that you're telling the truth. And their job is just to try to attack you and ruin your life. And they're very tenacious. I'm going to show you some examples of this today.
Okay, so that was, again, him talking about the woes of being a truth teller, I suppose, in a sense. But you know what this reminded me of, though, Basil, is the temptation. When Jesus was tempted in the desert, and we bring this up often, but he gets brought up to a high place, and Satan shows him the kingdoms of the world and say, hey, if you worship me, I will give you the kingdoms of the world. And in a similar sense, it's almost a lot of these new age folks, David Wilcock being one of them, David Icke being another one, they have this, part of their message is that they were chosen to be the messengers from these higher beings.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a consistent theme that pops up with a lot of either cults or even some religions. You can say, like Mormonism. The two angels found Joseph Smith and told him, you gotta tell everybody that you gotta fix the Bible, the missing parts of the Bible. You gotta tell everybody. So it's this common theme that occurs over and over again, and it's just a pattern that I've noticed.
Yeah, of course,
with a lot of these things, because scripturally speaking, we're called to the Great Commission to spread the gospel, but God doesn't really, he's not a respecter of persons. It also says that. So it's not like, unless you're a prophet in especially, Old Testament times, it's a little different in the New Testament. There's less of the whole prophet thing going on. There's more of like disciples
and what he's describing there is a one world religion.
A one world religion. Yeah.
It's, again, if you're coming at it from a biblically based perspective, that means something way different than what he thinks that means. And so, on one hand, it's not necessarily untrue what he's saying, but he is playing his part. That perspective is playing its part in the biblical prophecy about the sort of age we're moving into, which is, again, becomes obvious to you when, if and when, and I pray everyone gets the chance, of course, to turn towards Jesus in this line of research or this line of inquiry, because if you don't, you end up at the complete polar opposite, exact wrong information, the exact wrong stance that, a one world's religion is good and we'll all ascend, which is the exact sort of description of the deception from the biblical perspective. So
that's what I always thought was interesting with people like Wilcock and their message, which is, we have the right to ascend, like George Washington. He's got the mural on the top of the dome in Washington, D.C., the Capitol building, the ascension. Yeah, the ascension of George Washington. He's becoming one of the gods. Yeah, all these guys. But the elite, the deep state, they don't want you to get that. It's kind of this weird, like, we have the right to do it and we can do it on our own terms. They don't want you to get it, kind of message, which is subtly different from this idea that God is going to do it. If you're covered in his blood, you have eternal life.
It's the very Tower of Babel all over again. It's the classic cycle. That's what makes it so obvious. Once you can see it, once you got right perspective, it becomes so obvious.
It becomes very obvious.
So along the same lines there, because we're kind of watching this stream of current events, which the theme is like the alternative thinkers or researchers or those who know the truth. Maybe it's the scientists are disappearing, those who have secret information. It's got this sort of occult echo to it. We've been following the Daily Mail list, which as of now is still 11 officially on the Daily Mail narrative list of the missing scientists and such. However, much like us on last episode, going, okay, let's see if we can find who the next
the
person
next
on
one?
the list
Who's the
is
next-
going to be.
By the way,
Daily Mail.
just as before we're talking about this.
Aliens.
CNN, I love this headline. I'm just going to read the headline. At least 10 scientists tied to sensitive U.S. research have died or disappeared in recent years, sparking
You
federal
know what they're doing? They're leaving out the custodian.
They are. They listen to our show and they're like, yeah, these boys have a good point about the custodian.
Yeah, they're leaving out the
At 10.
custodian.
We'll say at least 10 to hedge our bets. But yeah, go ahead. Continue with the.
By the way, somebody
potential
sent
next.
a text to the Canary Cry text message alert system. You should do that too, folks. If you haven't done it, go ahead and do it. Somebody, let me see if I can find it actually real quick. But if not, I'll say it myself. Which is they were making a point because we were talking about the janitor. Here it is. Just want to share a thought with you guys on the missing janitor story. My husband and I knew personally 2 men, brothers to be exact, who each wanted to work at Lockheed Martin. The only way to get employed with Lockheed was to start as a janitor. I mean, that's like, there's your Goodwill Hunting.
There you go. There you go.
I just gotta work at Lockheed Martin. It's my destiny to work at
I'll
Lockheed
clean
Martin.
toilets. I mean, that's a dedicated individual. Or yeah.
So brother number 1 worked as a janitor while taking his master's program. Once he finished his master's, he was moved up to a rocket scientist position.
Wow.
Brother number 2 did the same thing, but as an aerospace engineer. Don't think so lowly of a janitor. Yes, and I hope I see maybe perhaps in our enthusiasm, somebody might have gotten the impression that we were calling the janitor unimportant. Which we are not.
No, we even mentioned how
we're saying
it
was interesting to have a janitor on the list. However, we made the point that a janitor has access to all the secrets. He maybe has more access to all the assets and secrets than anybody else. So anyways, we support our janitors around here. And yes, CNN trying to catch up on the narrative while leaving it. That tells you something about the CNN audience, right? That CNN's like, oh no, our fancy pantsy Democrat readers are gonna say that's not a scientist, that's a janitor, and they're gonna be like,
don't discriminate the janitors. You're gonna target all the janitors across the country. Don't include them in the list.
We're not gonna include him. So along with that, okay, so on Monday, if you're here on Monday's show, you say, okay, I bet we can find, because they're going back in time. They're at 2022. They're going to find a 2021 person who disappeared, and we went back to try to find it. It seems that we're not the only one trying to get ahead of the list, Gons, because Fox News comes in and they drop a story yesterday. Aerospace defense engineer, military veteran, killed in plane crash with family. A decorated veteran pilot, aerospace engineer, and defense researcher was killed in a plane crash in South Carolina last week, raising questions about whether the incident is related to the deaths and disappearances of 11 scientists, 10 scientists and a janitor.
Maybe the janitor was a scientist from another country,
tied to nuclear and space research. Okay, so this guy died in a plane crash. Now, first of all, I want to make a point that will separate our analysis from everybody else trying to play the game. Okay,
okay.
They're adding people based on what happens next. From what we've identified, they have to go back in time to find someone to add. So we're all got our own analysis. We're all trying to play the game, figure out who's going to be next. I will note that they are referencing the 11 scientists of the Daily Mail count, and the Daily Mail, as of this morning, has not added anybody to the list. So we will see if Fox News can get ahead of it and if Daily Mail adds it, or if we're right and they're going to go back in time and add somebody. Just a note there, just a note. Raising questions about the incident is related to the deaths and disappearances of 11 scientists tied to nuclear and space research. James Tony Moffat, 60, was flying with his wife Lisa, 61, and sons Andrew, 30, and William, 28, when the plane crashed in a wooded area near the runway at Union County Airport in South Carolina on Friday, the Union County Coroner's Office said. Oh, so that was Friday. It's been 4 or 5 days. The family from Huntsville, Alabama, was traveling from the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina, Huntsville, officials said, and had stopped in Union County, South Carolina, to refuel. The Union County Sheriff's Office said the crash occurred around 6:30 p.m. The family was flying a Mooney M20 single-engine aircraft, the National Transportation Safety Board said. Authorities have not yet released a cause of the crash as the NTSB, the Federal Aviation Administration, investigate the incident. Moffett is the latest scientist with ties to aerospace research and NASA to make headlines.
Because they're making it a headline.
Yeah,
Fox
right.
is making it a headline. Not,
Exactly.
I don't know that it was a headline otherwise, but yeah.
With deaths and disappearances of 11 individuals with similar backgrounds raising concerns. They do say his son, Andrew Moffett, was also an up-and-coming researcher at the time of his death. 30-year-old was a research engineer and scientist at the University of Alabama and Huntsville Research Engineering Support Center. Okay, not NASA, but okay, still impressive. And then it goes into more of their background, their education, and stuff like that. So we have the whole point, our focus, and I hope this focus is clear, and I hope that people see the benefit of focusing on the narrative process instead of the actual individual things, because it's clear as Daily Mail counts this list of scientists and researchers, they are adding retrospectively to that number by going further and further back in time, which tells us that it's more about the effect of the narrative on the public or on the milieu or the meta at the time. What I think is interesting, one of the things about this Fox report is that it shows that the meta is taking on a life of its own. So Daily Mail puts in the work, drums up some previous things, make this list, push it out there, keep updating it, to play this role, to start laying the groundwork that there's all these disappearing scientists, even though they disappeared years ago. And now we have other people trying to add to it. The narrative now has a mind of its own. If that Daily Mail list did not exist, would Fox be reporting this? Well, the entire framing of their report is around the 11 missing scientists. So it's quite possible they just wouldn't even have bothered reporting it. So you see, and in occult terms, they talk about it as many things, a thought form, an egregore, lots of different phrases for this sort of invisible creature, an invisible being. We might call it demons, we could call it all sorts of things, but the occult believes that you can actually create entities. You can create entities using your mind, and then at a certain point they take on a life of their own. And we have this very interesting, I'm not saying, I'm sure that what this is, but I'm just drawing the connections as we watch it live, because very few people are watching it and analyzing it live as it comes. That you had Daily Mail, which again often sources from intelligence assets, a commonly used vehicle to propagandize the American people by its own government, winds up this toy, starts the narrative, keeps it going, gets everybody talking about it, and now we start seeing that egregore, the narrative, live a life of its own. And this is one example of that. And of course, people are connecting the David Wilcock in some ways to this. And it's really when you see these like thought golems, these egregores gain a sort of will of their own, that you start going, okay, something big is coming, or something, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's not even an event. Maybe it's just an attitude shift or something. But the creature has been released from the zoo, Gons.
Well, and it also creates anxiety amongst every scientist that works out there associated with NASA. Maybe even
David
doubts
Wilcock
their.
freaked out. David Wilcock was freaking out himself. I mean, if he did have a mental health crisis and called the cops on himself and took his own life the day after he's saying, wow, all these missing scientists is getting dangerous, then that thought being, that egregore of the 11 missing scientists was there
was the murderer,
influencing David Wilcock the day before he did what he did. So if you're wondering if this is just gobbledygook, I'm not saying it's true. What I'm telling you is that this is what the occult believes. This is what occultists believe. This is part of their spiritual mechanics of how things work. And, you know, perhaps it does work that way and we just call it demons or, you know, whatever. But the point is that it was very suspicious the way they built this narrative and forced it on everybody. Then we see it take on a life of its own. And we also see its hand in David Wilcock, the anxiety and the mental issues, if that's indeed what happened, perhaps playing a role in him taking his life.
So there are other sort of sub narratives being spun up. You got Comer and who's the other guy? Burleson, Representative Burleson. Both went on. We're not going to play the clips just for time's sake, and they're a little bit boring anyway. But they both went on air on News Nation, and I believe this is TMZ, which is interesting. TMZ is really picking apart this story here. And both of them are claiming that this is a national security concern, that it's probably Iran or Russia or China, which is very useful for the military industrial complex and, you know, a sort of technology race that's going on militarily. So, you know, again, it's, you know, any op, we talked about this last episode, an op normally doesn't have like, you know, one objective, one arrow to hit one objective. You know, you want something that can knock over a bunch of things or you know, many different angles get tackled at once. And this story of the missing scientists is great because it brings up the nuclear energy infrastructure conversation. It brings up just NASA in general. Are they trustworthy? It brings up the UFO conversation, you know, with the wide spectrum of topics that all of this encompasses. So, and, you know, a naturally skeptical society, what would be a great narrative to get everybody caught up? This is it right here. The missing scientists is a great way. What, 3-4 years ago, the World Economic Forum came out and say, how do we regain the trust of the public? Well, a great op would be to spin the story of, we don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. Trump doesn't know what's going on. The FBI has no idea. I think it's Comer here in one of these clips said like, yeah, the FBI didn't even know about this until we told them the other day, you know, so nobody knows what's happening. So it's just in a climate, a social climate where everybody is skeptical and there's no trust, this story gets clicks, gets attention, gets everything they want out of the media cycle. So, you know, you got to keep in mind that there's more to it here. One thing, the gaslighting though is pretty remarkable. I do want to share this post by Bethany Stevens. She's the NASA comms serving President Trump under the leadership of NASA admin. And she said this about this whole topic, quote posting Caroline Leavitt, who talked about this whole situation. She said, NASA is coordinating and cooperating with the relevant agencies in relation to the missing scientists. At this time, nothing related to NASA indicates a national security threat, which is in direct opposition to what Burleson and Comer are saying. They both say this is a national security situation. So now we're getting mixed messages depending on who you're talking to. And it says the agency is committed to transparency. That's funny. And will provide more information as able. So I couldn't resist the irony here, Basil, that NASA, a organization, a government institution that was birthed out of Project Paperclip, which was a program after World War II where the United States took all the German Nazi scientists working on rocketry and who knows what and brought them into America. So literally, if you're on the side of Germany, they're like, what happened to all the scientists? Where did they go? All the great minds, they all disappeared. NASA formed after that, right? They got all the Nazi scientists, occult scientists, if you will, and they created NASA. And that's the institution that's working with the relevant agencies to get to the bottom of these missing scientists. I don't know. To me, this is gaslighting, Basil. This is like just telling the public, kind of flaunting in everyone's faces, like, this is an op, folks. This is an op.
We saw that reflected as well with, when Trump finally was asked about it, and he was like, I don't know, I didn't know anything about it. And by then, 11 nobody told you 11. I mean, maybe not. Who knows what they tell him or don't tell him. But yeah, all under that sort of transparency word, that kind of spell. Transparency. So therefore, we're being transparent. So therefore, trust us and stay locked in, because it's a mystery we'll all solve together. It's very interesting. It's officially Daily Mail has not added to the list, but now everybody is adding to the list, and it seems like the list is kind of operating at its own entity now. Accomplishing various things.
The next few days, weeks, it will tell us who is the actual authority for this list. And we said Daily Mail because, we've been tracking Daily Mail for
they were
many,
the
many years.
exclusive for a long time.
Yeah, they had the
first. They were the ones keeping the official list that everybody else was reporting on.
Right. But it'll become much more apparent if, not even CNN's like at least 10. We don't know. Fox News saying, hey, look, this guy associated with NASA and aerospace and all this died with his whole family who are involved in tech and all this kind of stuff. And Daily Mail's like, nope, not going to be part of the list. We will tell you who the next name on that list is. So very interesting. It's
it'll be interesting too if they pull the old, if you love something, set it free, and they just let the narrative go and do whatever. So
they did their part.
That's the real intelligence operation. You raise up a narrative, you reinforce it, you feed it, you teach it everything you know, and then you set it free into the world and let it, impress you with what it does on its own.
Oh, I'm sure somebody will come up with a list of missing scientists from the last 100 years, and it'll be a list of 200 scientists.
You keep saying that, but I don't think if they start naming anybody who disappears before even going back to 2020 is gonna, because it's just not relevant. It's got to be like, oh, it's happening now.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying somebody's going to come up with a list, and it'll make the rounds or something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
One more quick story. There's one thing, Basil, related to this somewhat that I don't know that it's really necessary to. I'll just mention it. Okay, this is coming from the Washington Post. Däniken, who shaped politics coverage at the Post, which is Washington Post, dies at 60, and it is interesting because. I think he was one of the guys who covered the Russian election interference in 2016, the Jan 6 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Given the story we started with today about Charlottesville and that whole thing, if you kind of track that side of things, because people forget about the Clinton body count. That's a pretty long list too of people associated with the Clintons passing away. If you're like a cook or chef or something in the Obama house or the Hillary house, you find yourself dead. So I don't know if that's related to anything, but just another journalist who has passed away, and one from the other side of the political aisle. But I wanted to land today's episode on this topic here.
It's got to be biblical.
The California Post. Oh no, they figured out where I live. This is supposed to be from the New York Post, but apparently it's the California Post today. Headline: Archaeologist thinks new tech could reveal where the lost Ark is hidden at last. At last, we shall find it. An American archaeologist thinks he may know where the lost Ark of the Covenant is hidden and is hoping to mount a search to find it. Dr. Jones, or Professor Chris McKinney, believes the lost Ark, I see what they're doing there, may be waiting beneath the City of David, an archaeological site just south of the Dome of the Rock, which is considered to be one of the oldest sections of Jerusalem. The Daily Mail reported, of course. The Daily Mail, man, they really must be the authorities that we didn't realize was the authorities. There's a reason why the Lord was like, the Canary Cry News Talk team will report from the daily, dailymail.co.uk for 10 years. McKinney, an associate professor of biblical archaeology at Lipscomb University in Tennessee, drew on biblical and historical texts to zero in on the hypothesis and is hoping to deploy a high-tech device known as a muon detector to scan deep beneath the ground from the city of David to the Dome of the Rock to test his theory. Muon detectors track subatomic particles that come from cosmic rays striking the atmosphere. The particles penetrate deep within the earth and allow people to map structures otherwise hidden beneath the ground. Now, what they don't say here is muon detectors, a very important element of CERN, the Large Hadron Colliders. The particle colliders don't work without the muon detectors. So, the ones at CERN are stationary. They're not moving around. But apparently they have some mobile ones that they can bring to the city of David. And I'm not going to go more deeper into this article because there's a lot of stuff that you know about if you're a listener of the show, or even if you're not, you can kind of do research on the Ark of the Covenant. The big takeaway, though, is that the discovery of the Ark of the Covenant has been part of theories concerning the Antichrist or the man of sin, or the son of perdition. When this individual does appear, especially under the context of our old friend Chris White, in his book False Christ, Will the Antichrist Claim to be the Jewish Messiah? He mentions in there, just off the cuff. Now, he didn't go deep into it because it's more of a eschatological, theological book, not so much speculative. But he suggested in the book that the Ark of the Covenant might be part of the Antichrist, narrative of, hey, not only am I this great political leader, but I've found the ancient Ark that's been missing for generations, and that'll sort of bolster his authority as a Christ-like figure, a messianic type figure. And I'm trying to find the exact quote because he even mentions it in the context of the a conflict with Islam. So let me see here. Here we go. He said, rebuilding such a structure on the Temple Mount, talking about the third temple, which is currently occupied by one of the holiest sites in Islam. This is Chris White from 2014, I believe, the False Christ book. The Dome of the Rock would almost inevitably start a major war with the Muslim nations that surround Israel. That's current Israel. I will suggest in detail later that Islamic eschatology dictates that all Muslims fight this particular war, which they believe will be preceded by a man claiming to be the Jewish Messiah and the location of the Ark of the Covenant being revealed. So under his thesis, the discovery of the Ark might play a role in what's inevitably described as the abomination of desolation and standing in the holy place, that kind of thing. If you're going to have that level of authority, and especially you look at Daniel, people talk about the peace treaty in Daniel. If you kind of study it and go deeper into it, it's not really a peace treaty. It's a resubmission or affirming of the Mosaic covenant. And that's why they start sacrificing animals again as part of it. It's not a peace treaty. It's a covenant reinstating. So in that context, having the Ark of the Covenant there would make sense in that regard. So I find it interesting that amidst all the talk, Anna Paulina Luna, go read the Book of Enoch, and everybody's being interested in the more sort of fringier topics of the Bible and Christianity and all that kind of stuff. We have this story suggesting that, hey, we might know where the Ark is, which also is strange because Donald Trump has a replica of the Ark of the Covenant, I believe, at Mar-a-Lago. I know there's some people like Laura Loomer and stuff have taken pictures in front of it and stuff. So very fascinating. And and of course, dailymail.co.uk, Noah's Ark mystery deepens as underground tunnels found in Turkey match Bible blueprint. And I was struck, Basil, because the image of this alleged mysterious geological formation that's believed to be the Ark of the Covenant is, for us, it's like old news. This is news from like 10 years ago, where we had Dr. Aaron Judkins, I think he went to Turkey and explored this part of the mountain. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just
they're
maybe I'm not
reporting
remembering right.
the old archaeological finds from 10 years ago. Again, just happens to be at the same time as the Ark of the Covenant and the UFOs and the war in the Middle East. And so, it's bringing it back to the top for us.
But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
Must be getting close, Basil.
There you go. There you go. Well, that's just about it for what we got today, folks. We're glad you're here. I will be back tomorrow for Canary Cry Clubhouse. So come hang out with me tomorrow. It is a call-in show. So call in, say hi, let's chat. I want to give a shout out to a producer who came in during the show. And that is producer. Where's your name? What is your name? I saw JLap. Producer JLap comes in for $11.11. Thank you very much, JLap.
11.
Thank you, JLap. And by the way, Gary Wayne will be a guest on Friday. We'll have that.
That's right. We got a interview coming out Friday, so a lot of stuff for you this week. Real quick, I want to thank our streakers. These are our producers. They come in under $7.77, and we thank them once a week. I missed last week, so we got some catching up to do. Malik W came in last week for $7.77. Thank you, producer Malik. We had Dame Tinfoil Hat, Keeper of the Seeds, on a 204 episode streak.
Thank you, Dame Tinfoil Hat.
Veronica D is on a 571 episode streak.
Veronica D.
And Sir Casey the Shield Knight, 621.
Sir Casey the Shield Knight.
There you go. Thank you guys very much. And remember, we got producers coming in doing all sorts of things, making art, making music. If you're a creative person, you want to make something for the show, all you got to do is go to canarycry.art, and you can upload the art there, fill in the information, and we'd love to feature it on the show.
Yep.
Real quick, because we always keep forgetting to mention, but I do want to mention and invite you, dear listener, to join the Canary Cry text message alert system. It's very rare that the platforms send out notifications when we go live, but you can get a text message right to your phone straight from me. I will personally send you a message right before we go live, so you never miss a show unless you want to. Just text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. Just the word Canary to 877-740-3226. The fun part is you can text us back at that number, whatever you want. I cannot carry on a conversation with you via text. It's very expensive, but we got some messages that came in. Sir Seeker, who's heading up the Canary Cry Tech team right now, says, shout out to the Canary Cry Tech team, where we're fueled by Cage Rattler coffee and producers just like you. Lots happening, he says. Sign up today. So if you want to join the Canary Cry Tech team, send an email to canarycrytechteam@gmail.com. Thank you, Sir Seeker.
Thank you.
Let's see here. We got a message. Oh, we got some prayer requests here. So let's hit the producers. 406.
Producers, assemble!
If you're listening to the show now, you are a producer. We answer the call when listeners send in their prayer requests. So write this down. Pray for right now. 406 says, producers, a random man just walked down our street cursing and yelling foul things. I don't know him, but we should pray for him that the Lord can reach him. He could have been high or maybe mentally ill. Both. Lord, this man is made in your image and you love him. Help him, God, to find healing and peace with you. There we go. We're praying for the random screaming man going down the street. 406. Yes.
I did hear your rooster just scream, so maybe the rooster was channeling.
Yeah. We got a message from TDL Prez, sends a beautiful picture of his little canary baby. Says, I hate to ask every show for prayers for the unseen, unheard attacks. Bless you, brothers, TD and the baby canary. No problem, but let's get producers on. We're praying for the unseen and unheard attacks over there at the TDL Prez family. We got a nice message from 704 who says, "Praise God for what you are both doing. I'm sure it's not an easy ministry, especially since days off are probably never fully days off." Hey, yeah, you get it. You and your families are always in our prayers, praying God strengthens you and lifts you up on eagle's wings so you can continue to walk and not grow tired, run and not grow weary. God bless you both. Thank you, 704. We had another prayer request. Listen, producers, coming from 210, says, "Please pray for my youth pastor, Tim." He puts his full name. I'm going to say Tim N. and his family. His wife and daughter's house blew up last night in a natural gas explosion. Jeez Louise.
Wow.
And another home with 2 other unknown residents. My daughter was friends with the young daughter. They are in critical condition currently. Lord, please. Yeah, that is crazy. Well, we're certainly keeping Tim N. and the family and the neighbors in prayers. Again, that's just horrific, but God can hold all of them in his hand at once and find some unimaginable way, but to bring his glory through in this situation. But of course, strength and healing and comfort to everybody affected. 604 says, "Prayers for Canada. A dark cloud looms over the nation and things are getting worse. Day by day, evil is brazen and right out in the open. Too many are deceived and blindly following their captors." Yeah, let's just zoom out and just pray for all of Canada. Things just keep getting crazier and crazier up there. The whole MAID program thing. It's like, what is it? 1 out of 20 people who die in Canada are killed by the MAID program. It's like eugenics by the government. 1 of 20 people who die. It's horrible.
Oh my gosh.
So praying for you, Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we made it. I think we made it down the list.
Okay.
Just make sure. I hate to leave anybody out. There you go. So go ahead. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. And of course, thank you to our producers who help us out with their time, like the time stampers.
Oh, whoa. Well, I was not ready for that. Here we go. Time stampers.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
Zoning out over here like Joe Biden. I believe it was, I'm going to guess it was Jade Bouncerson who did the last episode. I hope I'm not.
Probably it was either Jade Bouncerson or Morgan E, unless there's some mysterious time stamper. But thank you so much for your work. Of course, thank you to Jam for heading up the Telegram channel. Thank you to Adam42 for heading up the Discord. You can join the Telegram or the Discord channel. Get connected with other Canarians. Go to canarycry.party. Scroll down, you can see the invite links to both those platforms there. Thank you to Joe for the feedback. Thank you to Clank for clanking. Thank you to Ike for all the wonderful things you do for us. And thank you, dear listener, for sharing the show. Share the show with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with any old screaming crazy man going down the street. And we like to call it rattling cages. And all you got to do is walk right up to him, grab him by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
Every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Gons, you got any last words?
Tell everybody tomorrow that it was 2005, 21 years since the co-founder of YouTube uploaded their first video, Me at the Zoo. Look at that. 21-year anniversary of the start of the end of video content on air, on internet.
Okay, all right. There you go.
It's on the calendar. I don't know. I'm trying to just get the calendar.
Are you sure it's not when YouTube uploaded all their stuff without our permission onto our iPhones or iPods?
No, that was much later. This is 2005. So, yeah, this is a while.
Yeah, it was a long time.
And then Hairball Awareness Day on Friday. Just be aware of those hairballs.
Got to be aware. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, Think outside the cage.
This is the way.
We're all gonna die.
Give me a break.
Son of a beasting.
Do not come back, you Nazi psychopath.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Bye!
You little rascal. I am so hot.
You're so hot.
I'm... Gons. I am so hot.
So hot. This is not about freedom or personal choice.
And a resounding paka flies through the air across the world. Why are you screaming like a wild bird?
Rattle their cage. You have a lot of people screaming randomly. Why don't you shout? It'll be their call out. You have a lot of people screaming randomly.
Go ahead and...
Why don't you shout?
Why are you screaming like a wild bird?
Taking and no man deceive you. Many shall come in my name. Said I am Christ, and shall deceive any. He shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Nation shall rise against nation, the kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.